Let's stand on business. It's OG on business. Alongside Demetri Ravanos, I'm Joe Ovias. There is no more OG fans.
No, may she rest in peace. I would pour out any one of the many bottles of alcohol that Gilio has over here, but the only piece of technology is my computer, right? Like if I was ruining your shit, that's one thing.
Yeah. We don't need to be doing that right now.
Right.
We don't.
So first of all, thank you to everybody that subscribed to OG fans. I'm just being completely transparent with you guys. It was not a failure by any stretch.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a matter of, I promised everybody that they would get a certain amount of money. I promised you guys it would cost a certain thing, and those things didn't jive.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be unfair to the subscribers. I didn't want to be unfair to the people that were doing the work for me.
Yeah.
So everybody suffers is what I decided.
Okay. Well, I think, I've been thinking about it. I just got back from a trip out to Banff and Glacier.
Yeah.
So you spend a lot of time driving. Although I spent a lot of time listening to Canadian terrestrial radio.
Sure.
Talk about a throwback. I'm serious. I was throwing that's a separate conversation for the day. But I was listening to, it was Calgary Stampede week. So they were, dude, Sportsnet we were in a bar and they actually had chuck wagon races going. And I'm like, we need to go to this. We got to cover this. It's going to save the ACC.
I've been in Canada for Stampede week.
Yeah.
1 year.
Yeah.
And I think it was the very next year. I was there the week that Kawhi got traded to the Raptors.
Oh, geez.
And we were like in deep Alberta. And it was still like,
I love that.
Man, the world just flipped upside down.
So as you're spending some time driving all over the place, you have time to think. That's why I love vacations like this, because you kind of get lost and you start thinking about stuff. And, the one thing that I told myself, and really it's something that I've tried to hold on to throughout my entire career, and you know this about me, there's nothing wrong with trying stuff.
Right, of course.
One of the things that would bother me to no end when I worked for a company was the layers of tape that you'd have to pull off just to get an idea off the ground. And usually what it came down to was, well, is it going to make money?
Right.
And oftentimes it's like, well, it might not make money the first year.
Right.
You have to let it cook a little bit and then maybe it'll make some money after that. But we're not going to know an answer to that.
Yeah.
You can get an idea as you build it. But for the most part, you're not going to know the answer unless you try it. I hate just saying, no, it's not going to work.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, no,
I hate that. I hate that. If it failed, it failed. It is what it is. So I think that's the thing that with the OG fans part of this, I wanted to give it a shot. Now, for the transparency purposes here, I think that's why some people were like, well, what does this mean for the podcast and yada, yada, yada. There's two separate entities.
Right.
Okay. So there's OG Media LLC.
Right.
That is a 2-person LLC. That is me and Jillian. Okay. And essentially in 2 years' time, we've done well enough to essentially replace the salaries that we lost at Capital Broadcasting. But that's just for me and Joe.
Exactly.
Okay. And that was always the goal. Can we get back to at least some level of what we were making before we got let go? And the answer to that is yes. All right, we're there. But in no way, shape, or form does that mean we can start adding to what we're doing.
Right.
This is where you come in with September Creative and the idea that, all right, well, you have your LLC and then we partner these things together. We promote, we contribute. It's a separate, completely different thing. I think you give me a separate text form for those types of things and whatnot. And the idea being was you can, and there's also bandwidth issue too, right? So for the main podcast, the only level of bandwidth that I have at this point, and I've discovered this in the last year, especially with some of the extra stuff with OG fans, is that I really only have the bandwidth to worry about the podcast.
Yeah.
All right. You only got so much time in a day. You're also older. You're not as young as you once was, right?
Very true.
So you got kids, you got all the other things pulling you in different directions. So you only have X amount of bandwidth, right? So you come in, you've got this drive to give this a shot, obviously with live events as well, like the Sports Podcast Festival. So it's all right, let's give this a go. And the whole point was to try to generate enough off the subscriptions to be able to pay people to write and produce some podcast stuff. And well, we ended up getting some subscribers. I think it came out to about what I predicted it was going to be.
Yeah.
Usually the industry rule of thumb is you're going to get about 10% of your overall audience to pay for this kind of stuff. And also, as you mentioned too, you have to charge a rate that's going to be able to make it work.
Right.
And you do all that math, and the math wasn't mathing.
Yeah.
And at that point, you just got to say, well, I'm not going to keep doing this for just to keep doing it.
Right. And,
it ain't going to work.
The other thing you learn about the, I guess, newsletter industry.
Yeah.
Is, and you and I have talked about this, like it thrives on obsession.
Yes.
Right. Like Sarah Sivian, our friend Sarah Sivian, does well with her newsletter because she is targeting hockey fans that want to know more about hockey.
Mm-hmm.
We were offering something based on obsession, but it was obsession with the people that we're creating.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It was obsession with Ovius and Giglio, with Brownlow, etc. If that's the obsession we were relying on, we have reached everyone we were ever going to reach.
Pretty much.
And the product itself was a general interest kind of thing. Doesn't really jive.
Now, that's the part that I find most interesting, because I've actually been really struggling with that part of it.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I've also been listening to other industry things and what has happened, like, especially with like music reviews, right? Like there's always, about every couple of months, there's this big thought piece on the current state of music criticism. And what you've come to find out is that the same things that have happened to other industries are happening to sports, and that people don't look at things from a general point of view anymore. They are singularly focused on the artist they love, and they want to know everything they want to know about the artist. And even in specific genres too, that always existed, but there's even niches within the niches of those genres that I don't even know the names of anymore. Right. So to your point, where you succeed is if you're hyper focused on a particular thing that serves that subset of people really, really well. And the general audience just either just kind of scrolls on Facebook, looks at TikTok. Maybe they'll get, Kent Sports pointing at something to tell you. And I love Kent Sports. I'm hoping to hook up with them next week when we're in Charlotte for ACC kickoff. And that's how they're getting their news.
Yeah.
That's how they're getting their general, like, oh, did you hear about this?
Yeah.
And I know this because I'll get this from people in my life where they're like sending me a reel or a TikTok of a general sports thing, like for the Canes, right? And it's like, guys, why are you getting that information from them?
Right.
When you could be getting it from us or, whatever. But the reason why is that those people are doing a much better job serving that audience on those specific platforms. So you have to be super, super, super focused. And we're probably coming at it from an antiquated point of view, that a general discussion or a 5,000-foot view of, say, the Canes free agency and their salary cap issues that Tom does a very, very good job of kind of breaking down, that might not work on a general sense.
Right. Right. I mean, it is...
Same with the ACC, by the way.
Yeah.
Like I've struggled, and I've had this conversation with Brownlow a ton when it comes to ACC Panic Room. 15 years ago, ACC Panic Room made a hell of a lot of sense. 10 years ago, it made a hell of a lot of sense. But as college sports has changed over time, and you got Greg Sankey talking about the SEC being the Super League, right? Which I thought was a bar at Greg Sankey's press conference earlier today at SEC Media Days. Jim Phillips could never. The ACC fan is more focused on what all the things that are going on, how it affects them, and them only, not the league. So state fans only care about NIL and all this other stuff and super leagues as it relates to them.
It's also
Carolina.
It's also a weird age thing, right? Like we're in our 40s. I do the bubble bath thing now for a site called SEC Unfiltered, covers the entire SEC. And most of the guys I work with are in their 20s, right?
Yeah.
And all of them want what's best for the league. And I think they have like 5 heads. Like, I don't want what's best for the league. I want Alabama to go 12-0, and I want everyone else to go 0-12. Like, that seems very normal to me.
You mean you're not rooting for Arch Manning to get things done?
No, it's not that I'm rooting against him. I just don't care. Right.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that I don't follow everything. It is just, media is so fractured now, and in a good way. Like there are so many options to get exactly what you want, exactly when you want it, that everybody's got to get used to make it a little bit less. Unless your name is Pat McAfee or Stephen A. Smith. And B, you really have to lock in on one thing that you think you can do really well. So I say that to say we do have something else coming. Our goal is in the new year. I'm not going to give away too much yet, other than to say, I think what the three of us have noticed, even, the fact that we operate as 2 different companies, I am more than anyone else the person that is up here with you guys. I think what we have noticed is Caniacs can never get enough, never feel like they are covered enough or get fair enough coverage from people outside of the triangle.
Yeah. And even in the triangle, I would say it's underserved.
Yeah, I would agree. So we're leaving it there for now.
Yeah. Now, what about the mailbag? What about OG on Business, right? What about ACC Panic Room? I don't think ACC Panic Room is coming back. I'll just be blunt about this for the reasons that I just laid out. I just don't think there's necessarily a market for general ACC discussion because the ACC is not what you fell in love with. The current ACC is not what you fell in love with. It's just not. It's broken off into the various little factions. And I would argue that the factions in the triangle are even kind of broken up right now because everybody's out here trying to do their own thing. So I doubt that ACC Panic Room is going to come back. OG on Business, I think that's one thing that we've gotten a lot of feedback on, and we'll continue to do OG on Business. For main reason is that, honestly, I'll just be straight up, whether people listen to it or not, it is an outlet for at least me to get some industry things off my chest.
During that period of time that I was working for Barrett Media, I'm still working for them. It was the editor of Barrett Media, and the Joes were still on 99.9. Ovius and I would make time probably every other week, right?
Yeah.
To grab a beer, and he would want to know the gossip from other places, and I would want to know the gossip from here. So this show very much is for us. I mean, it's great you're here. This show is for us.
It's really for us just to, all we're really doing is, you know what? Why don't you just sit in the studio and we can have this conversation, record it. And if people want to, if they have an interest in this, then man, even better.
Starting a business is cheaper than getting beers these days.
But what I've noticed, and this will get us to where we're going with OG Business and Mailbag, is that on YouTube specifically, there is a cottage industry for people to talk about said industry.
Yep.
Right? It's weird. It's not lost on me that I'll see Dan Patrick in my timeline again because he is saying something about ESPN in the state of the industry. I will see Dan Le Batard fed to me in YouTube because, not because of any of his sports takes, is because he has something to say about ESPN or the industry, Pat McAfee, etc. So clearly, this is actually a text thread that you, me, and Bomani have all the time, and that the three of us are still confused as to why people care.
Yes, 1,000%. I mean, don't get me wrong.
But they care.
Yeah, I'm not telling you you're wrong.
No.
You know, to me, and granted, we are in the business every day.
Yeah.
Being on the consultant side, like, boy, you learn how just untalented some of the most famous people in this industry are, right?
Yeah.
To me, you listening to this would be like me listening to plumbers talk about pipes.
Like, I know people who used to work in the newspaper business that are now, like, I call it civilian life.
Yeah.
And I know one individual who does a podcast for accountants. I'm like, excuse me. He's like, no, we do numbers.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool.
That's my old buddy Jason Kong, who was my producer when I was, trying to convince people I could do political talk. He and Scott Fitzgerald, who was on WPTF for a long time.
Yeah.
They have made a business that allowed both of them to leave their 9-to-5s out of, basically convincing all of those businesses that used to be like, hey, Saturday mornings on Buzz Sports Radio. Yeah. It's, hot rod talk.
Right.
It made a business out of convincing all those people like, we can produce a podcast for you. Why get anyone else involved? Own your own thing.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So we'll continue to do OG on Business. We'll continue to do OG Mailbag, but it's going to be done in the form of a YouTube membership channel.
Yes.
So we're going to eliminate the podcast backend through Slate/supporting cast, and just focus solely on YouTube membership, which I think is my big thing has always been about streamline, right? And that's why I've always been anti-Substack.
Yep.
Because Substack really isn't about a newsletter. Substack is making sure that you stay on the Substack app.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like YouTube has gotten to a point where it is just YouTube is like television. YouTube is like radio. It is just something that is ubiquitous at this time. YouTube is not something that is new and novel to anybody. It's a very mature, it's wild to say this, but it's a very mature platform that makes it dead simple to get your stuff.
Yeah.
Including behind paywall material like OG on Business or the Mailbag. And since, we already have people that are on YouTube and it's a really easy thing, it'll probably be like $9.99.
Yeah, cheaper than an OG fan subscription.
Cheaper than OG fans. And there's some other bells and whistles that you can mess around with. Like, I know on YouTube, you can, we premiere the podcast itself at 2:00
right
every day. But with like membership, you can actually put that out the minute it's ready.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't want to wait until 2:00 to watch it on YouTube, you just want to watch it when it's ready. Well, that'll be available to you.
Yeah.
Like those types of things. It also adds some like special like chat features. And so there's some bells and whistles that come with membership that probably makes a little bit more sense to do it that way rather than what we had been doing. And the reason why we'll stick with OG Business and Mailbag is because those are the two things that seem to at least have some stickiness to them.
Yeah.
In terms of what the audience has been checking out as opposed to the other things. And again, I can see the numbers. So I see what people are clicking on. I see what people are engaging with. And those be the two things that seem to go along with it. So that's my guess is not this week because I literally just got back from vacation. I have to sit down with the YouTube membership stuff to see what makes sense. And then we got ACC kickoff the following week. So my guess is in 2 weeks.
Make it 3. I'll be in Greece for the week after.
Oh, all right. Well, we'll start with the mailbag that Friday, and then we'll get going on that sort of stuff. So, but yeah, look, man, it's a bummer that the OG fans experiment did not work out. But I think ultimately you got to make decisions that just make the most amount of sense. And I think it just made the most amount of sense to put that thing to bed.
Yeah. I mean, it's 100%.
We appreciate everybody who signed up for it. We
Absolutely.
appreciate everybody who's been cool. I mean, I get the emails. I've seen the comments on Instagram when you made the announcement that we were sunsetting this thing. That I don't need a refund, all that kind of stuff. Like we appreciate, honestly, we appreciate all those things. We appreciate all those things. I really do. Because I think in those responses, I think it's been comforting to know that people understand what we're trying to do.
For sure.
And they understand that along the way, that there's going to be some things that just don't work.
Yeah.
But knowing, to wrap up my point here, I think knowing the audience knows that we're not going anywhere.
Right.
We're just retooling to see what does and what does not work financially.
Yeah. And in fact, like if all you're here for is Ovius and Giglio, like it's literally nothing about Ovius and Giglio is changing.
No.
This is a thing we did that didn't work the way we want to. I am, look, I'm in a fortunate position of my wife doing what she does, that I can be a little more risky with it. So I like doing live events. I like doing the subscription service stuff. If you're playing in risky waters, occasionally you're going to get bit.
Yeah.
And we got bit.
It happens. I mean, hey, man. But the point is, we're going to keep trying.
Yeah.
See what works out. Because we do believe that in this market, stuff like this should exist.
Yeah. But this is really important. I do need you to buy tickets for the podcast festival.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, I'll say this, and I've seen this. This gets back to what I was saying earlier about corporate red tape and management and risk averse and all that kind of stuff. Because at the end of the day, people are only looking at a bottom line of making money rather than doing it, seeing if it works, and then going from there. Right. The first go, exciting, new, awesome. The second go, you got to follow. There's a reason why they call it a sophomore slump. Man.
Oh, for sure.
Okay. I read 2 books while I was on vacation. One was called 60 Songs That Explain the 90s by Rob Harvilla, who's been a music industry guy like forever. He's around our age. So a lot of his cultural touchstones are very similar to ours. And the other one was a book about Tribe Called Quest. But that tied in a larger narrative about this country and race and things like that. Both fun books for completely different reasons. But there was one through line when it comes to all this kind of stuff. Is that all these successful artists? Man, that follow-up is hard.
Yeah.
Okay, that follow-up is really hard. Or when you've set an expectation and that next one isn't exactly meeting it, people kind of go, well, wait a minute. So all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's a tale as old as time. So anyway, that's kind of the state of OG fans, or the state of what was OG fans. And again, thanks to everybody who had signed up in the first place. Thanks for everybody for being understanding as we kind of go through this process. And we're going to try something else with YouTube membership here in the next couple of weeks. One topic I did want to get into for this OG on business as we wrap things up is I was doing my re-entry into sports, coming back from vacation, because like the only 2 things that really broke through on my social media feeds while I was gone was the aura farming Indonesian boat race kid. Have you seen that?
No.
Oh, dude.
All right. Hey.
Are you familiar with Labubus? That's the other thing that broke through.
Oh, okay.
So the first one is it's this ancient boat race festival weekend that happens.
Aura farming?
Yeah, look up Aura farming Indonesian boat kid. Okay. It's like the only thing that broke through my timeline while I was gone. You know, along with like some LeBron James stuff and whatnot, right?
Oh, nice.
Because, you know, like you're out in those national parks, man. The cell service sucks.
Right.
You know, and then you can only get Wi-Fi in the lobby of national park hotels, right? So you're seeing this. It's just a kid on the front of a boat, doing like a weird little dance, and then a lot of people have been mimicking it, of course. While we were on a little 10 horsepower motorboat going around Lake Minnewanka in Banff, you know, leave it to my kids to try to like. I'm like, no, guys, no, you can't. We're gonna get kicked out. You can't do that, right? So as I'm getting back into this, one of the first things I see when I get to Awful Announcing is an interview that Dan Patrick had done with Pardon My Take. And like most Dan Patrick interviews, there is the, it's, you know, it's like the Bart Simpson meme, like say the line, say the line. It's like, okay, Dan Patrick's going to talk about how he's still like upset about how things ended at ESPN. Dude, it's 2025. Yeah. Man. Like, I think most people might remember you from your Olympics and NFL's coverage on NBC, more so than they would your time at ESPN. But I get it. It tickles the boomer and Gen Xer that might listen to Pardon My Take to hear some old ESPN stories. Those guys have all the fun. That was not the part that got my attention, because again, that's well trodden material, right? It was his opinions on the current state of the sports talk radio industry that I found interesting. And this is, I'm just going to read to you the aggregated portion of this from Awful Announcing. That shift in value from audience size to shareability, essentially the point that he was making is that the reason why Pat McAfee and all these guys are super successful is because all these bite-sized chunks go out online, and that's how you consume it. I mean, same thing. Like I couldn't tell you the last time I actually listened to a Spittin' Chicklets, but buddy, let me tell you, I get Spittin' Chicklets in my timeline all the time, talking about the Canes or what Natchez is doing with Colorado, et cetera, right? So I got the overall point. Shareability is the thing, not necessarily audience size. Has left legacy voices stuck in a system that barely makes sense anymore. The traditional ratings model is opaque at best, outdated at worst. Even someone as established as Dan Patrick admits he's flying blind when it comes to how his show is actually judged. Quote, I still don't even know. They just tell me, like one day they're going to say, hey, come here, bring your playbook, you're done. And it could be something random like that. We'll be in a market and they'll go, you're killing it, but they want to go local. And I'll go, well, what does that mean? So then you're not an affiliate in Portland, Maine. Meanwhile, you thought you were doing great in Portland, Maine. Then it continues. It's not just the ratings that frustrate Patrick. He also takes issue with the people who interpret them. He takes aim at management types and decision makers, many of whom, in his eyes, are out of touch with how the job actually works. The people evaluating talent often don't have any sort of radio experience themselves. And there's a disconnect, he says, that leads to decisions that makes no sense on the ground level. Quote, I don't like being beholden to that because, face it, you have a lot of people who are in radio, who are your bosses, who probably haven't done radio. And I think it's unfair sometimes when they project to what you should be doing or why you aren't doing what you're doing or why you're not doing what they asked you to do. When you're in the chair and there's live bullets, it's just different, end quote. Thoughts.
Okay. So,
I have thoughts.
Okay.
Thoughts.
So my first thought, knowing Dan's bosses really well, like good friends of mine.
Yeah.
I would bet he is talking about his bosses at ESPN, not his bosses at Fox Sports Radio.
Fair enough.
When he says that. So there's very much a mining the old well for content there.
Fair point.
What he is saying about ratings has been true for a long, long time.
Thank you.
Ratings have, so rather than get into how ratings are taken, because if you're listening, I appreciate that you care about the business. You don't care that much about the business.
Yes.
The thing that everybody can agree on, even if you have good ratings, is Nielsen, the company that does the ratings, does not look at a large enough sample size to get a true view of what is happening in the market.
It's all vibes.
It's total vibes.
It's all vibes. I can tell you it's vibes. Let's break this down even further in a much more simple thing, because I've experienced this. You've experienced. Anybody who has done what we have done in radio has experienced this, and anybody who they'll all nod along if we were you, me, Maniscalco, anybody, right? When your ratings are good, quote unquote.
Mhm.
Ratings don't matter.
Right.
Okay. When ratings are bad,
Mhm.
suddenly they matter.
Yeah.
It's all to fit whatever narrative management wants to fit.
Exactly.
Okay. So even if ratings are good, you can say, oh, well, we're not selling.
Mhm.
You're not sellable. Well, wait a minute. Well, we're clearly we are
Yeah.
if we have an audience.
So
It's on you to sell said audience. If you're not selling that audience, how is that a me problem?
right.
So there's all sorts of things that end up going into vibes when it comes to the ratings. The ratings I've always viewed as a thing that will be weaponized against you no matter
Absolutely.
what.
The to sort of bring the earlier conversation together, I think the fact that we got people to sign up for OG fans, the fact that people go out looking for OG Light, that is a truer testament to your impact than ratings will ever be. So I agree with Dan there. What I disagree with Dan on, and this is not just Dan, I have been told this personally by national talent. I've seen other national talent talk about this in a public platform. The complaining about, oh, I thought we were doing well in market X, now they want to go local. That's such a loss for me, or that's so unfair to me.
Sure.
If you care about the health of the business, you should be happy to lose affiliates once you get to a certain spot if you're a national show.
I think there's a deeper issue specific to Dan Patrick, because in my lifetime of doing radio, Dan Patrick was always the margin filler.
Yeah.
If you were a new upstart radio station, typically Dan Patrick would be something that you would carry, and it would be carried until they got a better affiliation, i.e. you got the ESPN affiliation. It's as simple as that, because I've seen it multiple times over the course of multiple iterations of sports talk radio here in the Triangle, whether it was 850 The Buzz, 620 The Bull, 99.9 The Fan, The Buzz, reincarnated on 620, etc. Dan was always the starter pack.
Yep.
He is the new sports talk radio station starter pack.
Yeah.
And when the station finally gets established or they want to go in a local direction, that's the first thing to go, which gets me to my big question. We'll close on. Can you name for me a new sports talk station in 2025?
No, not one that carries live local programming.
Okay. We're coming up on a year of iHeartRadio flipping HD2 channel. August 1st, I believe, is the anniversary, the 1 year mark for 1061 HD2 being a Fox Sports Radio affiliate.
Yeah.
The times in which I can get the HD2 to work in my car are very sporadic, but it launched and I haven't heard shit since we talked about it the last time. So other than an HD2 flipping or a VSiN all gambling network, can you name for me a market that has signed on a new sports talk radio station that's live and local, or at least has an ESPN or Fox affiliate that then leads to at least one local show?
No.
One local show in any market. Can you think of one?
Not a new one. Like I said, I can name a bunch that are like, hey, we took this, 1200 watt AM frequency and we just run Fox now, or we just run whatever CBS Sports Radio became, because that's now the gambling network.
Yeah.
No, I can't. And I'll take people behind the scenes a little bit. So when whatever signal that HD2 channel is heard on launched, I have a lot of friends.
You're talking about the 1061 HD2?
Yeah.
The Fox? Okay.
Yeah. I have a lot of friends at Fox Sports Radio. And so I called people at the national level.
Yeah.
And said, hey, would you be interested in doing a deal with my guys to put them on in the afternoons? I said, I guarantee you're going to instantly outrate the bigger sports station. And the programming people were all like, yeah, let me get you in touch with the right people that make that decision. When it got down to the people that make that decision, I'm not talking about in Raleigh. I'm talking about national, regional level. Yeah. These people are all in LA. The first question was, well, how much would you pay us for that? It was
pay them?
Pay them, right.
Oh.
And I was like, well, I mean, we could talk about a partnership of advertising. And they're like, no, I mean, like, it costs more to put someone in there to press the button to turn you guys on than, than this station is ever going to make.
I didn't think about that. Yeah, you do need somebody in there to push a button.
Right.
Yeah.
I
didn't think about that.
And that is, look, sports is an expensive format.
I've always been told that, and the further I get away from it, I understand that.
Well, not only, all right, so not only have you always been told that, you've always been told that and seen people do it on a shoestring budget for as much as they can.
Yeah.
Like, to do sports right, every show needs 2 hosts and a producer at least.
At least minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you look at like
actually, no. All you really need is, here's what you need in 2025 for a new sports talk local show. You need one host, and you need a producer who's comfortable with being a producer / co-host who's not a co-host in name.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fair. I would say look at WFNZ down in Charlotte. Every show is multiple people. Every show.
No, Kyle's one person. He just has Smoke, who is that role that I'm defining.
But Kyle also has a rotation of people that are in with him for multiple segments at a time.
Okay.
Most days of the week, if not every day.
Okay.
Like there are ways you can paper over it, but all those people are getting paid.
Yeah, I guess.
You know?
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, sports is an expensive format.
Yeah.
And, you know, you say Smoke is that person. Yeah, Smoke is that person. There's also 2 other producers in there with Kyle.
WD, our guy, Will Dalton, he's same thing.
Yeah.
He's essentially a producer / glorified co-host with Josh Graham.
I mean, when it was you and Adam and Alec, it was you, Adam and Alec. When it was me, Mike and Lauren, it was me, Mike and Lauren.
Right.
Gilio and Rand. Like, every station tries to run on a shoestring.
Yes.
But a shoestring is still expensive by radio standards, particularly when you can just instead take this frequency and like, oh, fuck it. We'll just play what is called adult hits, basically like Taylor Swift into Adele, back into Taylor Swift. And we can have a robot do it.
Which gets me back to Canadian radio.
Yeah.
I was flabbergasted by hearing DJs have actual talk breaks in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Like, not like, all right, you know, coming up or promoting whatever. It was like, these were thought out 2 to 3 minute talk breaks. I was like, what in the world is live and local on music? Because I know Barrett Media has recently started a music radio portion of their website, which I find interesting because, like, I'm in the States, I'm thinking to myself, all right, what are you're going to cover, like some morning shows in major markets?
That's when they said, hey, we're thinking about doing this. What do you think? I told them, like, well, All Access didn't go out of business because too many people were looking at it.
I forgot about All Access.
It's done well for Barrett. So I was wrong.
Right, yeah, you're right. It's fine. It's fine. But so I just thought it was kind of interesting in that it really made me wonder. Oh, the other thing about Canadian radio too is that they were playing, because you're always going to find a classic rock station.
Of course.
In any market, it does not matter. But what was fascinating to me were you could tell which ones were like the Canadian bands that never broke contain.
Right.
So while Bryan Adams has a morning show on the weekends that you can listen to.
Oh, wow.
There were some bands that were playing. I was like, this has got to be a Canadian thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Oh, or they were talking. Another example, and Kelly and I were laughing about this. It was, they played a deep cut of Bon Jovi.
Uh-huh.
If I said deep cut of Bon Jovi, what do you think?
Oh, like an album track that didn't get released to radio.
Right. They played Runaway. That was considered a deep cut.
I feel like we played Runaway every morning. On
right. I'm like, what do you deep cut? He plays Runaway. You hear the da, 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 da. I was like, okay, this is supposed to be a deep cut. And then he came back. He came back to explain. He goes, Bon Jovi. Yeah, when Slippery When Wet came out, that album cover and the insert that was a little provocative. And I was like, yeah. He's like, that was their mega hit and all that stuff. But before you knew them then, I guess Runaway never broke in Canada.
Interesting.
So, and if, remember, like MTV they didn't really have MTV up there either. So I think it was
Much Music,
right?
Yep.
Was the version of MTV up there. So it made sense to me that would be the case. And then, of course, they're playing deep album cuts of Bare Naked Ladies.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Like you're all like I'm like, oh, okay. I'm finally getting that cultural difference where to them playing this Bare Naked Ladies track is like you listen to every single one of their tracks. They got all the radio play.
Right. Turn it on, turn it up, and rip the knob.
I'm like, well, you're not going to give me Brian Wilson? You're not going to give me the Old Apartment?
Right.
What's this? I've never heard of this track. Sure enough, they were all about it. Like, it's Bare Naked Ladies. You remember that off this album? I'm like, oh, that's
Did they hit you with some Jane from Bare Naked Ladies?
I think it was that track. They played a lot of Alanis Morissette.
Oh, sure.
You're going to do that. Bryan Adams got some run too.
So for you guys that may not know.
I only heard Rush once.
Oh God, you lucky son of a bitch.
I know, right?
So in Canada, 25% of all of their entertainment, so shows on TV,
Yeah.
songs on the radio, have to be Canadian made.
Yes.
I
did not know that.
Yeah. So that's I think it's might just be called the Canadian content law.
Sure.
25% of everything that airs has to be Canadian made. 25% of what's in theaters has to be made in Canada,
Okay.
or made by a Canadian.
Okay.
Right. It's funny. You see, I've been reading a lot of studies, or actually read one, and it led me to read another, about how most Canadians say their least favorite thing about radio is having to fill the Canadian they want the big hits, right?
Yeah.
There was a guy that used to be
Drake.
Yeah, of course they did. There's a guy that used to be in sports radio for a long time. I can't remember where, but now he does a lot of production stuff for people all around the country. One of his accounts is The Gap and Old Navy. He makes their in-store music. And they want to, like, if you're in there for 30 minutes, you'll hear a song you recognize. They want under the radar stuff. And he was telling me, like, mostly what I do is I go through the Canadian music charts. Because most of that stuff is never going to break outside of Canada. And like, I've been walking through Old Navy before, Shazam to track, and sure enough, it's like it's some dude from Montreal.
All right. Also, CBC Radio, their equivalent of NPR up there, they have like a Canadian version of Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. And I forgot the name of it, but I was like, we hit a point in between. Where were we staying? We were staying in Kalispell. And we were driving up into Canada, and we hit this point where you're not getting anything. Right. And the only thing I could get was a CBC radio channel, and it was the Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me knockoff. And they were bringing on these Canadian comedians that I've never heard of. And they're making like New Brunswick jokes that slayed that I had zero. Like, one of the things was something related to like family doctors and how there's a family doctor crisis in certain parts of Canada because nobody wants to live, in the Northwest Territories or something like that. Right. And they're cracking jokes that are just slaying the audience. And Kelly and I are looking at each other like, I don't get it. Like, this is complete. But they were so nice about it too. Sure. That was the other thing too. So it was just, I'm always fascinated by those little cultural differences.
I'll tell you what are the big, like, holy shit, like,
including the Calgary Stampede, which is just a mind-boggling thing.
So in, let's see, 16 and 18 both, I was in Vancouver.
Yeah.
And it didn't exist in 16. And 18, I get in a guy's Uber, and he's got sports radio on. And it's in the middle of the summer, so they're talking about BC Lions, the Canadian Football League team, and of course, like, in 10 minutes, we'll tell you what the Canucks have done and blah, blah, right?
Of course.
Before, when they come back from commercial, like, they say, hey, before we get into, the Canucks segment brought to you by, whatever, Gord's Poutine.
Let me tell you, I am sweating poutine right now. So,
where are you at on the poutine scale? Like, love?
I love poutine.
Okay,
I went to Canadian McDonald's.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fine. I don't dislike poutine.
They had an international menu takeover, so they ended up having like the weird things that you can get at McDonald's in other countries, including this weird. It was like a German burger with a giant hashed brown patty on it.
Yeah. I've seen that.
It was called like the Big Roadie or something like that. But the Canadian poutine, man, it was McDonald's fries with gravy and curds. Like, how do you say no?
Yeah.
And they have little Canadian flags on it.
Oh, there you go.
It's like, oh, okay, cool, right? I think I ate poutine 3 days straight.
Yeah.
At various establishments to get to see if I could properly judge good poutine from bad poutine. And all the kids agreed. Both kids agreed. The poutine at La Cellier.
Oh, sure.
In Epcot at the Canadian Pavilion.
Yeah.
Beat them all. Them all.
So this Vancouver sports radio station, after they say, hey, we're going to do Canucks Talk brought to you by, Gord's, blah, blah, blah. If English is your second language, remember our Punjabi sports station is on this frequency.
See, you know what? Maybe that's what we need to do.
I mean, it was like
all cricket all the time in Morrisville. Let's go.
They
got the cricket spot over there in Morrisville.
Like, we can't even get a station with a local sports morning show. And this company in Vancouver has two fully staffed into totally different languages. I think just to talk about the Canucks.
Amazing. I love that.
I mean, I would imagine they probably had a "Hey, remember this Grizzly" segment, but like, what else could they be talking about?
Anyway, that's gonna wrap it up for OG on Business. We'll see y'all in a couple of weeks when we relaunch things on the YouTube membership channel. Some of this stuff will go free on YouTube because you gotta work that algorithm, but we'll put a lot of the stuff behind the membership paywall, and we'll see you then. Again, thanks for the support on OG Fans. Thanks for the continued support with what we're going to do next, and support Demetri and buy some damn sports podcast festival tickets.
TheRialto.com.
Go buy tickets now. Or Demetri, can we get a tattoo if we reach a certain goal?
Oh yeah, I've actually already figured out the next tattoo that is a combination of national parks and Righteous Gemstones.
No. I'm thinking you need to get like a shirtless haze tattoo.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
if we hit a certain number.
As long as it wasn't going to be like, you should get a microphone.
No.
I can't tell you.
What are you, LL Cool J?
No, I can't tell you how many douchebags I know that have either a microphone or a radio tower.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh. If I was to put any sort of radio equipment on my body, it would be these headphones.
Headphones, yeah.
It would be the Sonys. Damn. Simple as that. Anyway, we'll see y'all in a couple of weeks.